Well, hello people. Hope the wind's not too vicious on the mic. I was having some pretty weird dreams last night about flying to Ukraine. I have two friends who are there, people I know personally who are journalists in Ukraine, and I guess that's kind of freaking me out because I worry about them. An American journalist was killed the other day, and it's tragic. And you know, I'm starting to see how this whole thing works. It reminds me of all the price gouging that went on during the pandemic, the profiteering. And now we've got this more profiteering kicking in. It's all about the Arctic, oil and gas. You know, it's all about the hydrocarbons. The U.S. Fell out of love with Vladimir a long time ago. The phase boo decided it's okay to say mean and nasty things about Vlad now. It's so transparent. So all of our little, players are laughing with glee now that they can start making long-term deals, oil and gas deals, oil and gas subsidies, and discussing other ways to spend the money that the central banks create, or the Fed. And now this war, it just shifted it. So the subsidies are back. It's all about oil and gas and new military-industrial business. It's all back. So we're spending more on defense now. NATO's spending more on defense. And the whole world is, aren't we happy? Some people are going to make some money. And you and I pay for it. And your children pay for it because we're all in debt. So we're borrowing against your children's future. But we can't do anything about it, right? So it doesn't really matter, does it? As long as Americans have their bread and circuses, they don't care. There's too many other fish to fry, like, hating a congresswoman or calling Nancy Pelosi the devil. And it's hilarious that the Russian Orthodox Church is calling the Ukrainian Orthodox Church evil, from hell. And the Ukrainian Orthodox Church is calling the Russian Orthodox Church the devil. So, depending on what side you're on, you know what God's thinking, right? You know who the devil is. And Ukraine has just been a pawn in this geopolitical game for a long, long time. It's just kind of sitting there waiting to get beaten up on. Nobody gives a damn. It's like Enron and old ladies in California. They don't care what happens in Ukraine. Anderson Cooper gets to go there and pretend like he's a hero reporting from that place. And we all get to righteously talk about freedom and democracy when it's just a big game, a big business game. The big players in big business are gleeful. Their stock options are going up in value. They're making more money. They're solidifying their position in the game because they're needed now. The Arctic is opening up. So are we going to let the Chinese and the Russians exploit it? I mean, they could become even more competitive. So we've got to figure out a way to change the regime. So it's open season on Vlad. We just keep causing more and more trouble, escalating things and fueling the fire until finally he gets booted out. He's in office till 2024. Of course, he probably wants to be leader for life like Xi Jinping. But, we're going to figure out a way to get him gone. Another boss will go in his place, another big nation head man, because that's the way the old timers are oriented there, and the youth isn't going to take over anything anytime soon. They're cannon fodder in this war. The middle class in Russia has been totally wiped out. We could care less. Again, it's like the Enron guys on the phone, sniveling and burping and farting and giggling and laughing with glee as they slobber down on their ties, their neckties, about how they're getting over on the old ladies. They don't care if the Russian middle class gets wiped out. And if this war just drags on for a couple of years, as long as there's regime change in Russia that's friendly towards Western big business. And of course, we forget, Matt Taibbi had a piece talking about the doublespeak Orwell won. And we don't remember all the games we play, our Monroe Doctrine games, and how many regime change wars we've funded, how much mischief we cause in Hong Kong during the pro-democracy period, you know, in Central America, South America. What's going to happen with this new leader in Chile? Are we going to wreck him because he's leaning towards democratic socialism? We're going to wreck him. And what happened, you know, all over the world, obviously, Putin's paranoid, that's the way they're built. And he doesn't want to be another Gaddafi or Saddam Hussein. And nothing justifies what he did. He didn't have to do it that way. But again, these people aren't really that smart. They're paranoid, they're sociopaths, maybe even psychopaths, but they're not that bright. They make strategic blunders all the time, and so do we, all the time. So push, 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 play around with Ukraine as much as possible, and then when Putin does the inevitable crazy thing and invades, it's like, oops, sorry, there, now all your revolutions are for naught because your cities are being turned into rubble. And what we're going to do is sell them tons and tons of weapons so they can keep the fight going for freedom and democracy. It's a joke. It's hypocritical and it's ridiculous. And what do? We don't even want to talk about it. We don't want to know, the vast majority of us, because we think we have no power. We're powerless and hopeless. And as long as we can borrow money or make money, we don't give a shit. Leave it for our children to sort out, you know? We should have electrified 10 years ago. There was nothing holding us back. We should have spent some of our petrochemical resources on electrifying. If it requires oil and gas to create a sustainable energy grid, then let's spend some of that oil and gas doing that instead of the same old nonsense. So now we pushed Russia towards China. They're going to be besties now, more or less, because China still needs to sell all of its stuff to the world. It still has its Belt and Road soft diplomacy thing going. So who knows how that's going to play out. But the bottom line is there's a pipeline finished to China in 2019. They're selling gas at a good price to Asia. And there's plenty of business that way. And America got its way. They shut down the pipeline to Germany, so Germany has to think about nuclear power again. We're not going to trade with countries and play nice and play friendly because that's not lucrative enough. Can't make enough profit doing that. The price gouging and the inflation, all of that stuff you're paying for. And nobody seems to mind that much. I mean, it hurts. You know, we want our government to do something. But our governments serve big business, whether it's oligarchs in Russia or CEOs in the States. Uncle Sam wants your money. Uncle Sam wants your resources. The big players have to get theirs. It's a different kind of mafia in Russia and the States, but it's still mafia. It's still Sopranosville. And they don't care how many people they kill. They make these strategic blunders, people get hurt, and they try to act like they're ahead of the game. And then the propaganda starts. I mean, we really are losing our journalists. We're losing our dissident voices, all of this, because we're going to rally around the bullshit. And we're helpless. We're muppets. We're putty in their hands. Our brains are just constantly programmed with this bullshit. And it's bloody tragic, man. It's really, really tragic. But people don't care. They don't want to hear it. If you see people on Rumble or YouTube talking about this stuff, you hate them. You know, you want to see something. I mean, maybe one of these days I'll post a video that has me eating a slug out of the garden, shell and all, in front of the camera. Get lots and lots of views of that. Viral. But I can't help it. I'm here. These people where I live in Portugal, they're going to be able to get through it. They've been through worse before, economically. They'll tighten their belts. They won't drive as much. We grow plenty of food here to eat. Bread prices will go up because of the wheat problem, probably. But there are other markets for wheat at the moment until the Midwest goes under because of climate change and water problems. You know, we're all going to have to deal with this regardless, whether you like it or not. So if we're not going to hold our leaders accountable, if we're not going to push back on them, if we're not going to organize communities that can protect us from the shocks that are coming, too bad. You just have to deal with it when it hits you, you know, whatever. For now, just focus on the fun bits, on the funny things. Get your stuff. Watch those unboxing videos. And don't worry, be happy. But this is a joke, what's happening. The whole thing with Ukraine, you could see it a mile away. People were talking about it for years, for decades. And now we're in it up to our ears. So we'll just have to see what happens. William T. out.